What if you could run a YouTube channel with just 3 hours of work per week? Or better yet, 3 hours per month. More and more business owners are waking up to the power of YouTube to generate leads and to drive sales. But the complaint is always the same. Now imagine there was a team of obsessive YouTube nerds, people who made it their life's mission to automate every part of the YouTube process. The ideation, the scripting, the editing, even the thumbnails. This is the blueprint we've used to generate more than $1 million in revenue, book more than 20 sales calls a week, and turn YouTube into a 24/7 sales rep, working less than 3 hours per month on our YouTube channels. The only question is, will you use this blueprint? And this is how you automate YouTube as a business owner. The goal is to build and run a YouTube channel in less than 3 hours per week. If we use more than that per week, we have failed. Or even 3 hours per month, but this is only if you can invest a little bit more. So 3 hours per month is quite ambitious. And we want to obviously also overcome typical problems that are attached to running a YouTube channel. It's missed deadlines, working with unrelying freelancers, having to ask yourself what kind of content should I upload, which content works, which one doesn't. All of this gets solved with something we call YouTube process automation. And we took quite some inspiration here from different systems. But long story short, if you look at the overall, success recipe for building a good YouTube channel for your business, YouTube process automation plays a huge role along this whole process. And there's a couple of things that will really enable you to run a YouTube channel in very little hours each week. But you will have to overcome a couple of problems. You will need a team, naturally. You can't run the whole channel for yourself. It doesn't really make sense. You have a business to run, and this business is what you're good at, what will generate revenue and profits for you in the future. So you can't really put 100% of your energy into YouTube. Selectively, you will need a team, or of course you can outsource the whole YouTube channel building process to people like us, Channelcraft, right? But that's not what this is about. Other problems that you'll face is high churn of creative talent. So once you hire this team, they will naturally churn, they will go away somewhere here in the corner of the screen. You will need to balance creative chaos with structured peace, right? People you work with will need to be creative people, but these creative people sometimes are a little bit less structured. So workflows can get very messy. You'll have unpredictable delays and tight deadlines to get your YouTube channel out every single week. And if you don't have the right processes, you will not survive, trust me. You will need to maintain quality while you scale. You will need to manage creative burnout, which is something very real and it happens after some time. You will need to compete for attention in a saturated market. Even if your industry doesn't have any YouTube channels yet, you are going to compete for eyeballs, because your customers, all of your customers, like for every business, your customers are on YouTube because everyone is on YouTube. So, if someone's asking, are my customers on YouTube? Yes, they are. Everybody's on YouTube, right? You just need to reach them. But then the problem is your customers are probably not specifically looking for your videos. They're looking for entertainment or whatever, right? So now the art is to get in front of their eyeballs nevertheless, right? And then you also have budget constraints. Like you don't want to spend tens of thousands on your YouTube channel, probably. And how we solve that is, again, by YouTube process automation. And we use two things here. We use AI and we use humans. And this is basically, the whole secret, if you want to say so. Just the thing is, this is not some kind of guru masterclass. I'll give you the secret 5 minutes and then bam, you can run your YouTube channel in 3 hours per week. No, it doesn't work like this. This shit is complicated, okay? On the one hand side, you have everything that is attached to structure, and structure we can automate with AI, but on the other side, you have everything that is related to creativity, okay? Creative freedom. And that is something that we need to solve with humans. We can't fully rely on AI input here. So we have ideation, scripting, editing, and admin. Those are roughly the 4 stages of running a YouTube channel. Okay, first you ideate, what kind of videos should I do? Next you script, then you edit them, and then you do whatever admin is, right? And we'll get into much more detail here, but these are some of the tools that we use, and then some of them we tie together with tools like Zapier, you know, to make sure the content flows seamlessly from one stage to the next one, and we have as little work as possible for all of this. Okay, now let's talk about ideation first. Ideation is taught by others in a couple of different and funny ways, you know. So some are saying, just think about your business problems, and then what videos could you do based on these business problems? Would these videos rank well on SEO? Okay, give me a break. If you are talking about how your videos would rank well on SEO, you probably haven't built a successful YouTube channel for the past 10 years or so, because SEO is not relevant on YouTube anymore. You can't really optimize actively for SEO. You can do a couple of small tricks, but most of the people talking about SEO still think YouTube functions like it did function in 2010, where basically you did need to optimize your title, your video description, right, your tags. Nowadays, YouTube knows what your video is about. An example I always give is if you do a video about Barbie, the whole video you talk about Barbie, but you make all the tags, the title, the description about Oppenheimer. Guess what? YouTube still knows this is a video about freaking Barbie because they have the transcript of the video. So the thing is, it's more about what you say in these videos, right? And most of the time, you are going to talk about what you're talking about, right? So this usually is a big indicator. If someone says SEO is one of the main values in their service, just run, you know, get the hell out of there. Then someone's saying, you know, here's a list of 50 video titles that work well on YouTube. Just do those and then come up with thumbnail ideas. Well, can it be any more generic? You need to take into account what works in your specific niche, for your specific industry, your specific business, right? So you can't really give someone a list of 50 video ideas. You still need to go in there with, let's say, a strategist or at least a very good tool, and then determine what are the right packaging concepts. So title plus thumbnail, right? And you need to think about both in conjunction. So both of these need to be thought about together, because otherwise it's completely useless. Next, people say, yeah, just go to vidIQ, ChatGPT, any other random AI tool, right? Type in some of your business keywords and then they will give you title suggestions. And then somehow think about thumbnails, or AI generate these thumbnails. Well, send them 2 to 3 years to Kevin's content to cash flow program and forget, is what some of the Dagestani guys would say. This is completely useless advice and will not get you anywhere. It will get you average performance on YouTube at best, but what we are aiming for is top 10%, right? Because that's when YouTube gets interesting. YouTube by now is a game of quality, not of quantity. So everything you do on YouTube, you need to make sure you are aiming for the top 10%. And that's what we have been doing with all our channels that we own ourselves, and that are only successful because we always aim for the top 10%. So we're going to do things the content to cash flow way. We don't need time for that. We need limited creativity for that, but we're going to achieve maximum bottom line results with the content to cash flow way. So first of all, something you need to do at the beginning of your YouTube journey is think about your IVP. What's your ideal viewer profile, right? So they'll answer questions like, who's your typical customer? What's their primary and secondary goals, typical complaints they have, and so on. And all of this is going to inform who is your typical viewer profile, people that are going to turn into your customers eventually. And then you use something that we're calling an outlier database to brainstorm videos. And this is something you can do by sitting down once a month, and if you're good, you'll be able to generate 10, 20, 30 video ideas with this technique within 20 or 30 minutes. It's literally very easy. You go through our outliers, and these are videos that have been pre-selected because they work for businesses, okay? We don't just take any random videos. And if you want to replicate this process, you can build a table like this for yourself. You basically look at what are outlier videos out there, so videos that performed better than the channel average, which indicates that these videos are doing something right, and you take into account only videos that are relevant for the business niche. This doesn't mean they need to be in the business niche. It just means that the conclusions you can draw from these title thumbnail combinations can be applied to your business niche. And then once you have a table like this, you go through the table, and using each of these title thumbnail combinations, you brainstorm video ideas for your industry. So you constantly ask yourself, how could I adapt this to my own niche, with the goal being to change the title and the thumbnail as little as possible while making the video about you or your niche. Now you can do an extra step, and you can double check this with vidIQ, because vidIQ gives you, even in the free version, right? So we want to be mindful of your wallet. vidIQ gives you a so-called keyword score. So it tells you if this thing is going to rank well regarding keywords. And again, it's not really relevant what keywords you put in the title. It's more relevant in terms of what this video is about. Because if you do a video about, for example, medical device sales, you are going to say the word medical device sales a couple of times within the video, right? So YouTube knows this is about medical device sales. So for you, it can be relevant to double check with vidIQ, is this keyword going to work well? And now what you have, and you can also outsource this to professionals, but you will have a confirmed video idea plus a packaging concept in the most seamless way, first of all, and secondly, the best way to be, again, in the top 10%, because we don't want to sit down and think about endless ideas about what titles we could produce, because, well, we will come up with a couple of title ideas, but we don't know if they will work. So we need to orient ourselves on something that has already been successful in the past, and that's exactly why we use the outlier database, right? So this process gives you the best title and thumbnail combinations in the least amount of time. Now, before we talk about scripting, which is such a game changer, this can make everything so much easier or so much harder depending on how you do it. Let's talk about thumbnails. Thumbnails can be outsourced very easily, and let me tell you what, there is a plenitude of AI tools that can do it very well, like Midjourney, Ideogram, hell, even ChatGPT at this point does a super good job at creating thumbnails. So you can work with all of these tools if you are on a budget, and I suggest doing this immediately during the ideation stage, where you come up with these title and thumbnail ideas. Immediately the ones that you manage, the ones that you decide to focus on, you're going to create thumbnails for those. Or if you are not on a budget, just get a couple of freelancers. And here's the trick. Here's the very important thing. You should get multiple thumbnail freelancers, because guess what's going to happen if you just get one person? They are going to be late at some point. You never want to be with your business in a situation where things are dependent on just one person. Whenever you can avoid that, avoid it. So get a group with 5 to 10 thumbnail designers. Ask them to pitch their ideas. Get some competition in there. Select the best designs. Look, if you hire well, you're going to pay $10, $20, $30 for a thumbnail. All right, maybe let it be $50 or $100 if you want to get some superstars, right? But it's probably worth it investing, having some competition between ideas, because this is what's ultimately going to drive your CTR. And your CTR is everything. If people don't click your video because it looks freaking boring, you can have the best video in the world. It's literally not going to get any views, right? Because it just looks so boring. in terms of the thumbnail and in terms of the title. And then there are some other things, like for example, establishing a thumbnail guide, right? If you work with 5 to 10 people, then you do want to make sure you have a thumbnail guide, and you can really do this in a very easy manner by just telling one of the guys, whoever is the best, please make a guide, you know? Pay the person an extra $50 or $100, tell them, sit down one afternoon, write down a guide, and from now on, everybody shall follow this guide. Now let's talk about scripts, and after that video editing, because for both of these areas, scripts and video editing, there is a lot of AI stuff that's going on that we can use in order to make both of these things so much easier and so much better. So for scripts, it can be either outsourced or partly automated with current AI solutions. And for teams, you know, you literally just need one intern or an onlinejobs.ph wizard. You know, there's a website where you can hire Filipino VAs and they are pretty solid. You should have a pretty solid application process too to, you know, find the good ones, but onlinejobs.ph is where the magic happens if you want to get low-cost talent into your company. Now, tools you can use, obviously ChatGPT, Subscriber AI. I want to add, you can use Claude. Claude in many ways is better in writing than ChatGPT. And obviously you should also establish some scripting SOPs if you're going to work with script writers. But generally, it's going to be enough to have one person that understands YouTube and AI. And then have this person help you with scripts as much as possible. Now, script writing is a very complicated and complex task. So giving a whole script to an AI will lead to failure. So what we suggest, you break it down into chapters and segments, okay? Chapters are still a little bit too long. So we suggest going with segments. Within a chapter, you're going to have multiple segments. Like maybe you talk about the advantages of a product, then you're going to have multiple advantages that are going to be listed, right? So each of these advantages is one segment. And then think also in terms of options and alternatives. A mistake that many people do is they just tell ChatGPT or Claude, look, write this thing. But what we want to do actually is ask ChatGPT to generate 5 alternatives for the same segment. So we want to have a little bit of optionality there, okay? We want to ask for variations in angles. Can we look at this differently with different wording structure, right? And then the option selection, so thinking about which one should we go with, is one of the parts where you really need to sit down and focus, you know? That's half an hour of blocking everything else out, sitting there and making all the option selections for your scripts. Apart from that, it's a lot of iterative prompting, asking the model to criticize its own output, and seeing inputs as piecemeal helps a lot too. Now, again, 90% of the work can be done by AI, right? 90% of the work. So we have something we called a comprehensive AI scriptwriter, and those are super tightly defined prompts and techniques, you know, much more sophisticated than the things that we just discussed here, that help us write scripts extremely fast. The thing is, you can get there with experimentation too. If you just follow the advice that I outlined before, if you then make sure you write all of this down, right? Like you should literally have a document where you write all of these things down, all your learnings, and you make sure this is transferable. Because again, you want to give it to a wizard. You don't want to do these things yourself all the time. You want to give it to someone that understands YouTube and someone that understands AI. Now, obviously, they need to understand your business too, right? So they can't be dumb. They need to be intelligent. But this is where you're working towards. And then this 10% human input is something that you will not use, is something that you will not find on Upwork or Fiverr. This is not where you want to look. These good wizards or these good script editors are found through X, Discord, or other official hiring channels. For example, Online Jobs PH is an option, but my favorite is X. There are so many creative people on X, and people are sleeping on X. It's a literal hack, okay? So if you want someone who looks as intelligent as this fella, use X, go into Discord groups, or, you know, try official hiring channels, websites. Now again, you should view ChatGPT or other LLMs as something that enhances your content creation process, right? You want to use it to generate ideas, outlines, drafts, and so on, but it's something that will always give you just 90%, and then you will need to add the 10% somehow, even if it's just you reading the whole thing and making sure that it's on brand, that there's nothing crazy in there. And also for your particular business, you probably, if you are good, you have a little bit more knowledge about certain areas in your business than an LLM, right? An LLM is always going to be average, but you are above average with your business knowledge. So you need to make sure you instill this additional 10% of business knowledge that you have. Now you have a couple of more points. You can read through them if you pause the video or you don't. I don't really care, right? An alternative process is to have a monthly strategy call with a company like ours, and then you need to make sure these guys know their stuff. So for example, we have PhDs that do these strategy calls with companies. We ask the company a lot of questions. How did your month go? What were some successes? What were some challenges that you encountered? What were some questions that, you know, customers asked you? And then based on this strategy call, we create scripts about your company, you know? Then you review these scripts, then you record them, and we edit them. Now, obviously, you can build this whole process yourself. You don't need to work with a company like ours and pay a couple of thousands per month. You can do this by creating this process yourself. You just need one content strategist. You need one really good person that is going to interview you, the CEO, once a month, okay? Once a month you should be interviewed by a content strategist, and then let this content strategist come up with great video ideas. Again, where can you find a person like this? On X. And for all of this, again, you should develop as many and as detailed as possible. You want to make sure you leave nothing to chance, you know, there is no wiggle room. All of this needs to be taken down in bulletproof SOPs, so that then an intern or an online jobs wizard can take over as many of these process steps as possible. So how does all of this map into the next step of the YouTube assembly line? Right, we have the finalized script, and then in the next step, video editors will start editing. So let's talk about editing. Editing is the last hack that I will tell you before we talk about probably the most important thing, which is the organization of all of this, right? Like keeping the overview and like handling the, you know, the deadlines and so on, all of this admin stuff. But first, let me tell you about editing, because here we have massive automation potential. So on tools, we use stuff like Frame.io, and we use a lot of like literal AI editing tools. Like for example, here we have Midjourney, Ideogram plus Runway, right? That works extremely well. Now, in most of the cases, I do suggest you get a video editor. If you really want to have amazing videos, I suggest you get a junior editor and a senior video editor. Usually what they will do is the junior editor will generate B-roll with AI. Okay, so you can literally ask for a very cheap price, or can ask them to do a lot of videos for you, because a junior video editor can create amazing pictures that will be shown during your video, amazing B-roll as it's called, with AI, and it takes them very little time. And then the senior video editor takes that stuff and adds animations. Okay, he or she adds animations to make the whole thing look super sexy. And with this structure, you can churn out 3-4 videos per week, okay, depending on the complexity of the videos. So in general, one big piece of advice I want to give you is you should outsource editing, but don't look for great editors. Look for great AI users. We are living in this funny time right now. It's going to take another, couple of years. But before us was the era where video editing was a thing. You became a video editor and you had to do a lot of manual tasks. And now suddenly we have all these tools that enable people who are not video editors to edit videos, right? And so all of these video editors, they are not primed for these tools yet, but there's more and more people that are focusing on becoming good at these AI tools, and they have a different skill set. What they need to know is what a good YouTube video looks like. They don't need to be able to then produce it, because they can just do that with AI, right? And back then the challenge was being able to produce good YouTube videos, then also kind of knowing what they look like, right? Now you need someone that just knows exactly what his vision for this video is, how he can make it freaking amazing, and then actually making it freaking amazing is going to be possible for him or her with AI tools. And then what I suggest you also do is you ask for daily Frame.io updates, because even if you don't check these updates, and for sure you shouldn't check them, small disclaimer, because otherwise you're spending way too much time on your YouTube channel, but this creates some kind of discipline with video editors, and video editors need this discipline of having to produce something on a daily basis and be accountable, right? Then also something you should tell your editors: many animations and video sequences can be saved and reused for future videos, or if you for whatever reason want to do your videos yourself, ask people to do that. Start a template library to improve branding and keep it all super nicely consistent. And then there's also some video formats, like for example comparison formats, that can be 90% automated, but that is probably not too relevant for you. So again, my suggestion is that editors should be chosen based on their experience using AI software for editing. Don't look for normal video editors, because they will take a long time to edit your videos. You want people that are super quick, people that are quick and that can edit your stuff in a matter of few days. And then here's a couple of tools that our video editors really love. You can take a screenshot and start using them, or you can use them yourself. If you sit down, you will not be able to do this in less than 3 hours per week. You need to literally sit down one full weekend, understand all of this and all the other tools that are still out there, and then maybe you can get to a point where you can do video edits in a couple of hours per video. Obviously, if the video is shorter and it's less sophisticated, you can do it in an hour or so, and then your goal of 3 hours per week is still realistic. But in general, we are assuming here you will get an external video editor. Now here's a small hack, something my friend does. He takes images and then adds movement, so for example, Grok ideogram mid-journey image generation, you use this prompt and then you put it into Runway ML for image to video function, and then this thing actually will start moving quite nicely. And also in other regards, Runway ML is really a hack, so you can have a lot of different functions, all AI based, that in the past took video editors literally days to do some of these things, and now you can do it within minutes. So if you want to go down the route of doing all of that yourself, do take a close look at Runway ML. And obviously, before we talk about how you can automate this whole construct, how you can get more structure into this whole YouTube channel project, obviously, again, you need these SOPs for editors. So watch your competition, see what they do, see what kind of nice things you like from them, put them all into an editor SOP sheet and literally have screenshots. I like this. Again, this here I think is from those. It looks really cool. I like these covers, from some magazines, and use them as inspiration for your editors. This is if you really want to have a top tier YouTube channel. Now, admin work, right? This is where the real pros are going to shine, because if you automate this properly, you will have so much less work. Because actually a lot of the work with the YouTube channel, especially if you work with freelancers, is not doing the actual work of writing scripts or video editing or whatever, right? Because that's done by freelancers and they are super cheap. They do their job very well if you hire the right people. A lot of the work is generated by you having to follow up with all of these people and not any systems and processes being in place. And we solved this with Notion. So we have our Notion brain, we have our Notion YouTube management hub, where everything comes together. And then basically what you can have additionally or optionally is one VA that just looks at Notion, and based on Notion, he or she knows, okay, I need to follow up with this person, I need to give that person a kick in the ass, and here the thumbnail is still missing, so I need to, contact this or that WhatsApp group, whatever, right? So some of the things that this person can do, is video upload, scheduling, writing the descriptions, which mostly are standardized, thumbnail upload, storing stuff on the drive, making sure everything is clean, everything is nicely filed on the drive, and then coordination with collaborators, and then pulling analytics from time to time too, so that you can improve based on analytics. But most importantly, this person is a human reminder machine, right? Giving everyone in the team, all these freelancers, kicks in the butt, right? And then last point I want to tell you is every 3 months you need to pull these analytics here, because this is when you really start the flywheel. When you look at your analytics and you determine what went well based on the data, and you do more of what went well based on the data, right? This is a big game changer and something that so many people miss out on for whatever reason. So now the leaders, so your only job should be to improve this whole machine and then coach people to new heights. You don't want to do any of the reminding, you don't want to do any of the work yourself. Ideally, this is all handled by your team, and you just improve the machine and the processes, and you coach people to new heights. We do that with very simple feedback sheets. This is a hyperlink. This is available to people in our content to cash flow program. So you can have very simple feedback sheets. You don't need to have like all kinds of parameters. Just ask people, what they think about their own performance in terms of hard and soft skills and what they want to improve, and have an open conversation with them and teach them to reach new heights. And this is what you should do as a leader, and this is what will take whatever, like 1 hour every 2 months or so, and this will then enable you to be someone in this part of the normal distribution. This is where you want to be with your YouTube channel. So again, you can establish all of this. It will take definitely some time to establish it, but once you have it established, you can start automating, you can start fine-tuning, because sometimes the devil is in the details and it might take some time to fine-tune this whole system. And this also plays a critical role along our plan to build a thriving YouTube channel. When we work with a customer, we usually create a bulletproof master plan for them. So we map out the content strategy and how they are going to get at the top of their industry on YouTube, so that they generate leads, 10, 20, 30 leads per month on autopilot on YouTube, guaranteed. And then we gather intelligence about their industry and about their company through our proprietary data collection systems, then our award-winning writers and editors. Literally award-winning, okay? This is not some joke, but we have a production company and you have people in there that are highly talented, and they understand script writing. They get to work, they write 4 amazing scripts. Next, we implement conversion systems so that these amazing YouTube videos that you have on your channel now also convert from eyeballs into customers. And because we don't want to have a lot of pain in the ass with this YouTube channel, we use YouTube process automation systems on these channels ourselves, because we know how important it is, and because we want to reduce the amount of time that it takes for us to manage your channel, for example, and at the same time get the highest results, the best content out there possible. For you, this means 60 to 90 minutes of interview. For you, this means a total required input per month of, let's say, 2 or 3 hours in a month. And obviously you can recreate this whole structure yourself if you want. It'll take some time, but you will definitely get there. Okay, bye.